Welcome back. You're joining us at Hyde Park. We're talking with Dr. Udaya Indrarathna, expert in policy and strategy making. Dr. Udaya, now you were talking about cluster components and how we move on from sector oversighting, whether we plan there or whether we move forward. But my question here to you is, with all this strategy, where do you see Sri Lanka? Where do we go from here? You talk about nation building. I'd like to know about that. But before that, I really want to know, with the idea, with the strategy and policy that you have in mind for my country, your country, our country, where do we go from here?
Well, I think let's start with the nation branding strategy. I think by developing a nation branding strategy to be a world-class player, that will be the starting point. If I elaborate what is nation branding is all about, it is actually a 7-pillar model which academics used. Center for nation branding in the very is the leader of the country. The leadership brand that takes country's competitive advantage and increase its competitiveness. Now, leadership has at least 5 maturity levels we are talking about. The very first level we call agrarian leadership maturity, which means the agriculture hub. The second we call natural resource hub position for a country, which means a focus on oil, gas and gems for that matter. Third we call manufacturing leadership maturity, which is manufacturing hub stage. The fourth level we call service economy maturity, which is developing service economy hub. Fifth is we call knowledgeable leadership maturity, which is global knowledgeable leadership maturity. So when you brand as a leader, as a knowledgeable leader, that leader obviously will understand the agriculture hub. He'll also understand the manufacture. Yes, indeed.
Are you trying to say that our future leader, or whoever the leader be in this country, has to be mature, has to definitely and most importantly have maturity in all those areas?
Well, the ideal situation is that a knowledgeable leadership only can do the game changer for Sri Lanka. That's why I thought of talking about the nation brand first, because then only the right decision can be made. So I said we call also this unity of leadership. Unity of leadership is all about being that knowledgeable leader who understands service economy, who understand the manufacture economy, who understand and agri economy and so on. So then only the right decisions can be made and right strategy can be made and country can come up. Then the center of the nation brand, since is the leader, let's look at the 6 pillars. The very first pillar is the way the country perceived by outside world on the governance. How the country is governed, whether it's a fair system or not. Second is the export. What level, what kind of export that country produced and used around the world. Third element, which is a very, very important element, is about its people, the competence level of its people and the tolerance level of these people. How important this pillar, as an example, Dubai is championing in nation branding, and Abu Dhabi, UAE for that matter. They recently set up a Ministry of Tolerance in UAE.
Something that Sri Lanka definitely needs.
Right. And then what happened? Year 2009, UAE is called Year of Tolerance. So the lot of countries who are knowledgeable in nation branding are focusing on enhancing their rating to make sure the economic vitality is and potential reach as a result of nation brand focus.
What is the potential GDP for Sri Lanka when we talk about nation branding and all the strategic shift that you're proposing we make?
Yeah. See, in the very good question, today Sri Lanka GDP around 4,000 per capita. Now, very first thing we need to do is to take us to 12,000 GDP per capita scenario as a direction.
Possible?
Well, Sri Lankans are very aggressive people, and we have proven that we can do. And I'm very positive that economy war can be win. So long a right approach are used, and also the Singapore theory, the MPH secret formula is applied, which I'll explain to you what is MPH is about. So I think it's really possible. But I think the very first thing we need to do is look at 4,000 GDP. The potential GDP of a country in the very is that at 100% employment, how much at the current inflation level, at current skill level, how much that increased GDP from 4,000 to. So we need to first do that calculation. Once that determined, then let's say if it becomes 5 or 6,000, I'm not so sure, then there are 6 more thousand to go. Then we need to find strategies, how can we fill that gap very quickly. And I have put some thoughts. I've started developing a economic blueprint for Sri Lanka.
So is it at draft stage now, or?
Well, I would say 95% completion level. I took the liberty to develop and formulate a blueprint for Sri Lanka.
Do you think we can present it to a new president once the election is over?
Well, I think that by that time it will be ready, for sure. It's almost done. So the point is, in the so that I talked to you about 3 pillars. The 4th pillar is the tourism of a country, the tourism potential of a country. 5th pillar is about the investment and living conditions of that country. So what happens is, a nation brand, we need to enhance these pillars for us to be accepted around the world as a nation that is very competitive.
On the ground, at the lowest level, what changes do we make here? Because we're talking about the international accepting Sri Lanka, looking at Sri Lanka, the brand of the nation, how do we uplift it? But at the same time, in order to uplift the brand from within Sri Lanka, there are so much changes we need to make for the people, for them to feel that Sri Lanka has to be a game changer. People have to believe in the nation.
Right. So I think this is a really good point. In order to see what happened is, we said one pillar of the nation brand is people's competence and people tolerance. So competence of the people are the most important thing. That goes hand in hand with our education and skill development. Now, I said before, 8% of our children only has the university
Right.
access. So if we can bring that to 40-45%, like every developed countries are, and that is a game changer. And the rest of them, we need to bring a high tech and skillful institutes to support the rest of the other children.
But we also need a lot of investments coming into the country. So how do we make this investor attractive, investor friendly, a place that investors want to come when our doing business index is not doing good, and when all the other indexes are not doing so well?
Yeah. In East to Do Business Index, in Navary, we are at 100th place. And on global competitiveness, we are the 84th place. There's a huge challenge for Sri Lanka, and that means there are more than 100 countries above us. When an investor wish to come to Sri Lanka, that
Sri Lanka will be the 100th option.
Option, right? So now that's very damaging. So that's where we need to understand. In the competitive index, there are about 9 pillars to look into. And similarly, East to Business Index has about 12 components to look into. For example, how you register company, how long it takes, and taxation and all that. That's why I told you a strategic plan will take care of most these issues. When you develop a strategic plan, you deep dive on the current situation and every angle. And then you take corrective actions and you take forward instead of doing ad hoc thinking. So what will happen is, if you do a strategic plan, and let's say we target to make each do business from 100 to let's say 40 or 30, all these issues will be handled, and that's the way forward for Sri Lanka. And then only the investors could come like the way you wish to do.
Your proposed, your draft proposal for nation building in terms of a strategy and policy shift, what is it looking at right now in order for Sri Lanka to attract investors?
Well, if I may say that Sri Lanka need to develop an export-driven economy. I had looked at our diagnostic. Sri Lanka's export GDP per capita is only $500, compared to $50,000 for Singapore, only for export, and Malaysia at $9,500. So the reports very clearly indicates that our $500 GDP per capita from export come from certain industries are low producing GDP, where the high GDP export oriented countries have focused on other industries like machinery, like electrical, like extracts and all that. So we need to first, after taking care of ease to do business and global competitor index, getting that clear, we need to then identify what are the best possible industries that suit for Sri Lanka. Now, as a strategy, Vietnam has a great model. What Vietnam has done in the way is that they have signed government to government MOUs with certain countries, and they develop their skill levels and technology and develop an export based business. Very good example is that they signed an MOU with Italy, about €4 million MOU invested by Italy, and they identify certain clusters in Vietnam that has certain capabilities, like for example Moratour, or people are good at carpentry, and Vevaldiniya, they are very famous at cane. In Vietnam, every country there you have some generic ability. So they select 4 areas. One is shoe manufacturing, leather, furniture, etc. And they went and they did a joint working group between Italy and Vietnam. And what they did is that the group were given a task to set up a base in Vietnam and to train the Vietnamese shoemakers or leather product skill.
Are you saying that there is possibility and a facilitation for exchange in know-how, technical know-how, as well as people-to-people cultural exchange?
Exactly. Not only that, they also Vietnamese, they went to Italy, they look at how they work in Italy, and finally what happened, that became an industry. That's only in 2010 they started. Now these 4 Italian companies have transferred their technical know-how, their knowledge, and also their equipment and all that. So in this way, the Vietnamese villager who couldn't go